My name is Don Stott. I am a father who experienced estrangement from one of my adult children firsthand. Welcome to Beyond the Pain, a place where parents of estranged adult children can find peace and healing. In each episode, I hope to share stories that'll help you through some of your darkest hours. To bring this out of the shadows and stop being ashamed. Then to build you up and inspire you to love yourselves even more. Hello, I want to start by reminding you that I am not a therapist or a doctor. I'm just a guy who's been there and wants to help you have a life past our estranged children. If you need mental help coping with this or have thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else, please seek professional help. Hi there. In today's episode, I want to talk about a subject that comes up from time to time and we always question how to deal with it. When our lives change, when we get a new job or there's an illness or we make a move, we're always questioning, should we let them know? There's a lot surrounding that question. You would think, sure, let them know. It's the parental thing to do. But it's not always as easy as that. My suggestion is you ask yourself a couple of questions. Whose decision was it to estrange? I know in most cases that I've dealt with friends of mine that I've made over the past few years, it's usually the children's decision. So I think that would play into it a little bit. If they chose to do this, I don't feel like we owe them any updates. It's a tough road. It's a tough decision. So it really depends a lot on you and how you feel about things. Like I said, there's a few questions that come to my mind in my knowledge, in my experience. Another is, how did they choose to leave? It makes a difference, I feel like. Did they just disappear off the face of the earth? Leave no forwarding address? Leave no sign that they're alive or dead? Happy, unhappy, anything? Did you guys have a fight when this started? Was it a knockdown, blowout kind of thing? Or do you feel like you may have actually done something to cause the separation? I know many times you don't know, but I have spoken to other parents who know that something transpired and then they were cut off. So sometimes that makes a difference. My next point is, what would you tell them? So say you're making a major life change. You're moving across the country. But it's been a while since you've spoken to them, since they've reached out to you, or at least since you've had a kind word from them. What do? And what would you tell them? Hey, drop them a note. We're moving, just wanted to let you know. Do they know that already? Is it in plans? Is it in the works? I think there's a lot to consider. It sounds like an easy enough question. Just tell them. But it also brings up all kinds of feelings that you may have dealt with and you may have reached a certain stage of closure, for the lack of a better word, because you never really get closure unless you have some communication going on. How would you communicate with them? Some of the children have said outright, I don't want to talk to you. Do not call me. Do not email me. Do not text me. Some add the disclaimer unless it's a real emergency, but a real emergency for them may not be a real emergency for you, and vice versa. So that's kind of subjective. I mean, unless it's certain things, hospitalizations or major illnesses or something. But I've even heard when people contact the children in those circumstances, they still don't want to talk to them. So it's hard. When you do move, unless you change your phone number. Now, these days, most people have their cell phone and email address, and that rarely changes unless like you're in a business or something that you need to have a local number for some reason. But this day and age, I don't think that's really an issue. So you would have your phone number, you would have your email address. Presumably, they would know that information and have the option to reach out. I think the next thing is, and I touched on it a little bit before, but the next thing is, will updating them serve you? Meaning, I touched on it a minute ago, whether you may or may not have had some sort of closure or at least feel in a good place where things are better than you have been. You're not spending your days crying or sleeping or all day angry. Will reaching out to them for this purpose make you feel better, or is it potentially something that will open up those old wounds again? Something to consider. I know for me, when I did reach out and either got zero response or got a very negative response, it kind of started a clock over again. So I think reaching out to them needs to be well thought out and well, all of the potential ramifications thought about, because there are a lot, or could be a lot. Many of us sought out counseling, to help cope with this. Will this help or hurt your mental health? It's kind of the same thing we've been talking about. Only you can really answer that question, but you need to, in order to be able to make the best decision you can. Another big thing is, so I reach out to them. Am I really expecting a response? That's hard, because in my experience, not just my personal experience, but with hearing other people's stories, most of the time it falls on deaf ears and they do not respond, not even an acknowledgement. So that's hard. That's very difficult to accept and to deal with. So you need to be prepared to accept the fact that they just may not respond at all. And if that's the case, what does that mean? If you think about it, really it doesn't mean anything different than you've already been dealing with. Does it mean that they love you any less than they already do? I don't think so. It just hasn't changed. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't love you. I mean, I have seen some cases where, even mine personally, that it's not that they don't love you. It's just that something happened and they're having to deal with it in their own way. There's nothing you can do. You have to do your best to move beyond it. Beyond the need to inform them of every facet of your life. Beyond the desire to reach out to them about these things. I mean, if you really feel the need to, and it's important enough to you, you are the only one that can make that decision. Of course, moving beyond worrying about that doesn't mean you're never going to think about them. Goodness knows I had many, many days that's all I could think about. And there were days that it consumed me. As I've said before, you gave them life. And in most cases gave them years of your life and love to raise them, to help them become adults, to keep them safe. You can't just turn that off. But in the end, you always need to do what's best for you. I can't tell you it's the right decision not to contact them. I can't tell you it's the wrong decision to contact them. That's between you and, your other potential family members, maybe your spouse or your partner or whoever is in this with you. It's really something that you have to think about, and you have to decide, how much am I going to take? And do they deserve to know? Or do we owe it to them to let them know? I don't have the answer. I know it was very difficult for me at certain times to make that call. There were things that happened that I wanted them to know. And some things I did and some things I didn't. It depends on where you're at in your journey. And this is a sucky journey, but it depends on where you're at in your journey and how things have progressed with your estranged child. So I'm going to leave it again. It's really something you have to decide, that you are okay with, that you know what's best for you. Even though that doesn't seem right sometimes, that you may not know what's best for you, you're the only one that can know what's best for you. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, any suggestions for future episodes or for this topic, please hit me up on my email. It's beyondthepainpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, share it with people that you think might be benefited by it. And we will see you next time. Please remember to allow yourself to live beyond the pain.